Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Berlin and welcome to the 4th annual conference of the Law and Development Research Network. My name is Philipp Dann and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all here on behalf of the network and to invite you to 3 days, hopefully, of controversial and fruitful discussions about the plurality of law and development. The Law and Development Research Network, LDRN, was founded just 2 years ago, 2017, by 9 institutions from Africa, Europe, and Latin America, and has now grown into a network of 17 partner institutions from around the world. The aim of LDRN is to enhance our understanding of the role of law in relation to development and governance, and to do so by connecting researchers and practitioners from around the world. We want to help pool our knowledge to understand better the role that law plays in creating, but also in combating problems like inequality, environmental degradation, and social justice, particularly in the global south, but also through the entanglements between south and north. To achieve this goal, LDRN organizes 2 events per year, a PhD school and an annual conference. Already the first annual conference in 2017 showed a remarkable interest in the field. And this interest has only grown. For this year's conference, we received over 300 submissions from all over the world. As a result, in the coming days, more than 200 researchers and practitioners present their ideas on 55 panels. These participants hail from 39 countries, the majority of them from the global south and female. We take this massive response as an impressive manifestation of the vitality of this field. Let me say a few words now about the structure and themes of this conference before I go on to highlight 3 central concerns while we were planning this event. The basic idea of our annual conferences is simply to provide a platform. We want to give space for the huge diversity of scholars and questions in our field, and in the coming days we will meet in 8 different tracks, discussing topics ranging from gender identities and development, legal pluralism and non-state law, to public law and socio-economic development, or law and development finance. There will also be 2 more theoretical tracks. Here scholars will reflect on different, in particular interdisciplinary approaches to the field, on different histories and genealogies of research, but also on teaching and epistemology. At the same time, we continue the tradition of the annual conferences to provide space for conversations between theory and practice. There will be 4 practitioner conversations where those working in the field or in agencies provide insights into their work and its challenges. Finally, we introduce the category of book launches. But we not just want to meet in our little corners of interest, we also want to come together in the plenary. Therefore, once a day, we will have a keynote address that will provide the chance to have debates among all of us. To that end, we are truly honored to welcome Professor Katharina Pistor from Columbia Law School, who is speaking to us today, Justice Madan Lokur, a former justice of the Indian Supreme Court, speaking tomorrow, and then finally, on Friday, Professor Dave Trubeck from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. But before we start our program, I would like to use this occasion to highlight 3 special concerns that we as organizers wanted to address while planning this event. As you know, the overall theme of this conference is the plurality of law and development. And I admit that this might sound like one of those catch-all umbrella phrases elastic enough to cover almost any topic almost any presenter would like to address. Yes, it is one of those umbrella phrases, but the title also has a more programmatic meaning in that it connects to 3 particular concerns. The first concern was that we wanted to allow a big as possible plurality, not just of themes in the conference, but also of voices. We think it is imperative to pluralize our conversations and our knowledge in order to do better research and find better answers. A central path to that end is to organize truly global conversations. But such plural and global conversations all too often fail, simply because of a lack to access and resources. We therefore started an extensive fundraising tour in order to provide travel stipends for scholars from the Global South. And we are very happy to report that we were successful. The German Research Foundation, the German Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, and the Konrad Adenauer Foundation provided us with generous financial support and allowed us to finance over 50 such travel stipends. Another step to pluralize the conversation lies in geography. Next year, the annual conference will take place in South Africa, which is hopefully more accessible for many scholars from the Global South. So please clear your calendar already for the next annual conference in September, late September, in Port Elizabeth in South Africa. And a third opportunity for enhancing plurality of voices is by new media. Digitalization can expand open access to scholarship and make debates more inclusive. This is why our conference is accompanied by an online symposium on the international law blog Völkerrechtsblog, and you can follow us on Twitter at LDRN 2019. Then there is a second concern while organizing this conference. We wanted not only to have more voices, but we also wanted to hear different stories of how scholarship has evolved in different countries. We think it is really important to broaden the understanding of our field by studying different histories and different experience of how law and development scholarship emerges. You might want to call this the comparative law and development perspective. I think we are all aware of one dominant story of our field, namely the one of the US academia. And there's nothing wrong with being aware of this story, on the contrary. But next to this, there are surely many other histories of writing and researching about questions of law and development in, let's say, Indonesia or Colombia, Kenya or India. Often, finding and considering these traditions might involve use a different lens. For example, looking for law and development research in India might be disappointing until one realizes that much related work there had not been done under that label, but under the label of law and poverty, or the like. So in the call for papers, we asked for these stories and experiences as entry points to pluralize our knowledge and vocabulary, and invited scholars to reflect on the history of development research. This includes, by the way, our own, the German history. So one panel tomorrow morning will deal with the German history of development research. So our first two concerns have to do with creating plurality. They appeal to alter the epistemology of our field. We want to create venues to listen to non-dominant perspectives, to engage with new voices, and simply better reflect what we know from where and from whom. But there's also a third concern. And this has to do with dealing with plurality, more concretely, dealing with the already existing plurality of scholarly communities in our field, and with the task of integrating them. As we all know, development is an impossible term for many reasons, but also a difficult term to define a field of research. Development can be everything and nothing. Not only that it is a field with relevant expertise among lawyers and economists, anthropologists and political scientists, among others. Even within the legal scholarship, there are many relevant communities that could contribute to a better understanding. But only some scholarly communities are typically identifying themselves as law and development scholars, such as those working on human rights, legal pluralism, or economic law. Other scholarly communities with relevant knowledges are mostly absent. We are thinking in particular of comparative law, which has a huge renaissance in the past years, or transnational law. Many scholars in these fields negotiate issues of development, law and development under different labels and categories, but with similar methods and sensibilities. These communities, often organized in other networks, frequently ask similar questions about law in non-Western social context, legal transplants, and the like. Thus, an important concern for us when organizing this conference was to reach out to these different scholarly communities and help integrate them into our discussions. We hope that this conference could be a place where different communities connect. I come to the end of my opening remarks. We are truly excited to have all of you here in Berlin and at our annual conference. We are grateful for your strong response and sure that we will have 3 days of intellectually stimulating and fruitful discussions ahead of us, here in the plenary, in the different panel sessions, but also over a cup of coffee in our conference lounge or on the boat cruise tomorrow evening. Again, a very warm welcome to Berlin and enjoy the conference.